All right, so we're going to do some multiplication with complex numbers. I'm going to do these 4 problems here. So start here, you've got minus 2 plus 3i times 3 minus 5i. We're going to multiply these. You can do it a couple of different ways. I'm going to go minus 2 times 3 minus 5i, and then I'm going to do plus 3i times 3 minus 5i. This is the distributive method where you distribute this term to this entire binomial and then distribute this term to this entire binomial. So we'll multiply these. We'll get negative 6 plus 10i, and then we get plus 9i and minus 15i squared. Okay, so just negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10, 3 times 3 is 9, and 3i times negative 5i is negative 15i squared. Now, the only thing to do here is to combine these like terms. That's going to give us 19i. The other thing to do is that I squared is negative 1. So in reality, this term is negative 15 times negative 1. Negative 15 times negative 1 is plus 15. Okay, so you've actually got negative 6 plus 15, and negative 6 plus 15 is 9. So you end up with 9 plus 19i. Okay? Our second one here, same thing, 2 minus I times 3 plus 2i plus I squared. We're going to do the same distributive method. I'm going to come write this over here to the right, and I'm going to say that's 2 times 3 plus 2i plus I squared minus I times 3 plus 2i plus I squared. Okay? And then I'm going to distribute that, and then I'm going to come back and combine like terms. So 2 times 3 is going to give me 6. 2 times 2i is going to give me 4i. And then 2 times I squared is going to give me 2i squared. Then we're going to come over here. Minus I times 3 is minus 3i. Minus I times 2i is going to be minus 2i squared. And negative I times I squared is going to be negative I cubed. Okay? So then the next step is, of course, to reduce the powers of I. So we're going to take this. This is fine. This is fine. I squared is negative 1, so that's going to make this minus 2. That one's fine. This is going to be negative 2 times negative 1, which will be plus 2. Those will actually cancel out. And then you get negative I cubed. I'm going to write this over to the right. That's negative, and then I cubed is negative I. And so that's actually going to be plus I. Okay? So then we add our like terms. So I'm going to go through my real terms first. I've got 6. And then these two guys, which went away. So just 6. My real term is 6. And then for my imaginaries, I've got 4i minus 3i. That's going to be 1i. And then plus I, that's going to be plus 2i. Okay? All right. So 2 more. Same scenario here. Distributive method. So here goes. I've got 4 times 8 minus 5i squared plus 2i to the 4th minus 5i times 8 minus 5i squared plus 2i to the 4th. Okay, we're going to distribute those. 4 times 8 is 32. And then 4 times negative 5i squared will be minus 20i squared. And 4 times 2i to the 4th will be plus 8i to the 4th. And then here, negative 5i times 8 will be minus 40i. 5i times 5i, negative times negative, will be positive 25. And this will be I times I squared, which will be I cubed. And then 5i times negative 5i times 2i to the 4th will be minus 10i to the 5th. Minus 10i to the 5th. So then we go through and we reduce these. The things that we don't need to touch, this is a real number, and this is an imaginary number. Any power of I bigger than 1 needs to be reduced. So that needs to be reduced, that needs to be reduced. That needs to be reduced, and that needs to be reduced. So start here. This will be 32. Negative 20 times negative 1 will be plus 20. I to the fourth is 1, so that'll actually be plus 8. Minus 40i. I cubed is negative I, so 25 times negative I is minus 25i. And then I to the fifth is just I. And so this will be negative 10 times I, which is negative 10i. And that actually works out really pretty because it groups my real and my imaginary terms. 25, that's going to be minus 65. Minus 10 is going to be minus 75i. So boom, boom, boom. All right. One more example. This is a trinomial times a trinomial. This one's pretty lengthy, but what you're going to do is distribute this 3 to everything, then distribute this I to everything, and then distribute this I squared to everything. So you're going to end up with 3 times 5 plus 3I minus 2I squared, then minus I times 5 plus 3I minus 2I squared, and then finally plus I squared times 3 minus I plus I squared. Okay, so we're going to distribute these things. Nope, that's 5. I wrote the wrong thing. 5 plus 3I. Well, let me just scratch through that. That'll be 5 plus 3I minus 2I squared. It's always going to be a term from this polynomial distributed to that. So it's got to be the correct polynomial there. All right, distribute this out. What do we get? We get 15. 3 times 3i is 9i. And 3 times minus 2i squared is going to be minus 6i squared. Then negative I times 5, negative 5i. Negative I times 3i is going to be minus 3i squared. And then negative I times negative 2i squared will be plus 2i cubed. Then we come in here, I squared times 5, 5i squared. I squared times 3i is going to be 3i cubed. And I squared times negative 2i squared is negative 2i to the fourth. And now we need to simplify these terms because several of them have an I above the power of 1. So we're going to go, this one's good, this one's good. This is going to be negative 6 times negative 1, which will be plus 6. This one's good. This is going to be negative 3 times negative 1, which will be plus 3. This will be 2 times negative I, so it'll be minus 2i. This will be 5 times negative 1. This will be 3 times negative I. And this will be negative 2 times 1. So now we've got all of these reduced. We can combine like terms. So we're going to go through and add all of our real terms first. I got 15 plus 6, that's 21. Plus 3, that's 24. And then minus 5, that's 19. Minus 2, that's 17. Should be anyway. And then we take our imaginary terms. We've got 9i minus 5i, that's 4i. Then minus 2, that's 2i. Then minus 3, that's negative 1i. So that'll just be negative I. Okay, so that is multiplication.